The moment I saw the seating chart taped to the back of the rehearsal dinner menu, I knew exactly what my sister had done. My name wasn't on it, not misplaced, not accidentally doubled up with someone else. Just gone. Like I'd never been invited. Like I wasn't the one who'd been wiring her $800 a month for the past 4 years so she could finish her degree without working double shifts like I had. Like I wasn't the one who'd driven 6 hours round trip twice to help her apartment hunt in Charleston. Like I wasn't standing right there in the foyer of the Magnolia Room at the Belhaven Inn, still holding the overnight bag I hadn't even set down yet. My brother-in-law-to-be's mother spotted me reading the chart. She smiled the kind of smile that isn't really a smile. "Oh, we had a few last-minute changes," she said. Seating got tight. At a dinner for 22 people in a room that held 60. I set my bag down slowly. I smoothed the front of my dress, and I went to find my sister. Let me back up, because none of this happened in a vacuum. My sister Fiona is 4 years younger than me. She's the kind of person who lights up a room, genuinely. I mean that. She has this laugh that makes strangers turn around, and she remembers everyone's name after meeting them once. Growing up, I adored her. I still do, in the way you can love someone and also see them clearly for who they are. Our parents divorced when I was 16 and she was 12. Mom moved back to her hometown in Ohio. Dad stayed in Virginia, remarried quickly, and became emotionally unavailable in the way that some men do when they build a new family and quietly retire from the old one. I aged out of needing much from either of them. Fiona didn't. I graduated, got a job in accounting at a mid-sized logistics firm in Charlotte, and started building something stable. Fiona deferred college twice, moved in with a boyfriend who turned out to be a disaster, and ended up at 22 with no degree, no savings, and a storage unit full of furniture she couldn't afford to move. I didn't hesitate. I told her to come stay with me. She slept on my couch for 7 months while she got her footing. When she decided she wanted to go back to school for nursing, I co-signed her apartment lease in Charleston and set up an automatic transfer every month. $800. Not a loan. I never called it a loan. I called it what it was. Family helping family. She graduated 2.5 years ago. I flew down for the ceremony. I bought her a stethoscope engraved with her name and graduation year. I stood in the parking lot of the arena in May heat and cried a little behind my sunglasses because I was so proud of her I didn't know what to do with it. 6 months later, she met Dominic. Dominic is from a wealthy family in Savannah. Old money, the kind that doesn't talk about money, just has it. His mother, who I will call exactly what she is, runs their social life like a project manager. She has opinions about everything, where Fiona and Dominic should live, what kind of wedding they should have, what Fiona's career trajectory should look like. She delivered most of these opinions in the form of questions. Have you thought about whether nursing is sustainable long-term? Do you really want to be on your feet like that at 40? That kind of thing. Fiona, who had spent most of her adult life looking for someone to take care of her, found his family intoxicating. I watched it happen over about 8 months. She started talking differently, dressing differently. She stopped mentioning her friends from nursing school and started mentioning people I'd never heard of who had lake houses and went to the same church as Dominic's grandmother. I told myself it was just adjustment. New relationship, new world, people change. Then she got engaged, and the planning started, and I started to understand that something had shifted in a way that wasn't just surface level. The first sign was the bridesmaid conversation. She called me in November, about 2 months after the engagement. I assumed she was calling to ask me to be in the wedding. We'd talked about each other's weddings since we were teenagers. She was going to be my maid of honor. I was going to be hers. It was just a fact, the way some things between sisters are just facts. Instead, she told me she was keeping the wedding party small, just 3 bridesmaids. Her 2 closest friends from Savannah, both women I'd met twice, and Dominic's sister. There was a pause. I filled it wrong. That makes sense, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. I knew you'd understand, she said, and she sounded so relieved that I felt sick. I didn't bring it up again. I told myself it was her wedding, her choice. I sent her a gift from the registry anyway. A stand mixer, $340. I didn't mention what I'd spent. The rehearsal dinner was held on a Friday night in April. I'd taken a personal day from work and driven down that morning. I'd booked my own hotel room. I'd bought a new dress. When I found Fiona in the hallway outside the Magnolia Room, she was holding a glass of champagne and talking to one of Dominic's aunts. She smiled when she saw me. The real smile, not the one she'd been using all evening with his family, and I felt that familiar pull of loyalty. "Hey," I said, "can I talk to you for a second?" We stepped into the alcove near the coat room. I kept my voice even. I told her I'd seen the seating chart. I told her my name wasn't on it. I asked if that was a mistake. She looked at her champagne glass. "It got complicated," she said. "His family has a lot of people, and the dinner is really more of it's mostly for the wedding party and immediate family." "I'm your immediate family," I said. "You know what I mean." I did know what she meant. That was the problem. She said she'd see if there was room at one of the outer tables. She said it like I was a scheduling problem. She said she'd try to sort it out, and then her soon-to-be mother-in-law appeared in the doorway and said the dinner was about to start, and Fiona's whole face rearranged itself, and she said, "Be right there," in a voice I barely recognized. She looked back at me once. "I'm sorry," she said. "Just come in, find a spot somewhere. I'm sure it'll be fine." And then she walked away. I stood in that alcove for probably 90 seconds. I looked at the floral arrangement on the side table. I looked at my own reflection in the mirror above it. Then I picked up my overnight bag from where I'd left it near the front desk, walked out to the parking lot, sat in my car, and called my best friend. "She just left me standing there," I said. "Come home," she said. I didn't go home. Not yet. I had a few things to do first. Here's what most people don't know about me. I am very organized. It's part of why I'm good at my job. I track things. I document things. I have a folder on my laptop labeled simply Fiona that goes back 4 years and contains every wire transfer confirmation, every cosign agreement, every lease document, every receipt. I'm not a person who keeps records because I plan to use them as weapons. I kept them because I was raised by two people who made a lot of verbal promises, and I learned early that verbal promises don't hold up to much. I sat in the parking lot of the Belhaven Inn, and I did some math. 4 years of transfers at $800 a month, $38,400. The security deposit I'd covered when she moved into her Charleston apartment, $800. The moving truck I'd rented when she left the bad boyfriend, $620. The plane ticket I'd bought her to come see me for Christmas the year she was too broke to afford it, $310. The stethoscope, $340. I wasn't counting the groceries or the dinners or the gas. I wasn't counting the time. Just the money I could document, $41,470. I opened my banking app. The automatic transfer to Fiona's account was scheduled for the 1st of the month. That was 9 days away. I canceled it. Then I called my bank and asked them to retroactively reclassify the transfers in my tax records as a personal loan, which, legally, they could be, since there had never been any written agreement otherwise. My accountant had actually mentioned this to me once, that consistent large transfers to a family member could be treated either as gifts or loans depending on how they were documented. I'd never pursued it because I never intended to ask for the money back. Until now. I drafted a letter on my phone. Simple, professional, the kind of thing I'd format properly when I got home. It outlined the total transferred, referenced the account records I had, and stated that in the absence of a gift agreement, I was treating the transfers as a personal loan per IRS guidelines for intra-family lending, and that I would appreciate a repayment plan discussion at her earliest convenience. I didn't send it that night. I just drafted it. Then I drove to a diner 2 miles from the hotel, ate a club sandwich by myself, and checked into my room. The next morning was the wedding. I went. I'm not someone who makes dramatic exits from things I've committed to. I'd driven 5 hours. I'd bought a gift. I sat in the 3rd row on the bride's side because I wasn't going to sit in the back of my own sister's wedding like I was an acquaintance. She looked beautiful. I want to say that clearly because it's true and because my feelings about what happened don't change it. She looked genuinely, radiantly beautiful, and when she cried during the vows, I cried too, because that's what we do. The reception was at a venue on the waterfront, the kind of place with string lights over the water, and a band that plays covers of songs you actually like. I found my table. I was seated with her nursing school friends, two of whom I'd never met, and someone's elderly uncle who fell asleep before the first course was cleared. Not at the head table, not near the family. At table 11, near the emergency exit, I drank my champagne. I made polite conversation. I smiled in the photos when a photographer swept through. And at the end of the night, when Fiona found me to say goodbye, she was glowing. She was happy. She was leaving for her honeymoon in Lisbon the next morning. I hugged her and I told her she looked beautiful, and I meant it. "Thank you for being here," she said. "Of course," I said. I drove home that night instead of staying over. I had a long drive and I needed the time to think. I sent the letter 11 days later by certified mail to her home address and as an email with red receipt to the address I had on file for her. I'd had my accountant review it. It was clean, factual, and entirely within my legal rights. The transfers had never been formalized as gifts. There was no gift tax exclusion documentation. There was no written agreement of any kind. Under IRS rules for below-market loans between family members, I was well within bounds to reclassify them and request repayment. I was not asking for everything at once. The letter proposed a repayment plan of $500 per month, interest-free, which would take approximately 7 years. I thought that was generous. I also, and this part I want to be precise about, I also included a formal revocation of my co-signature on the lease she'd had in Charleston. That lease had ended when she moved to Savannah with Dominic, so the co-sign was already moot. But I wanted it on the record that I was formally withdrawing from any future agreements. Her response came 8 days later, not by certified mail, by text message. "I can't believe you're doing this. This is so cruel. I thought you gave me that money because you loved me. Now you're treating me like a business transaction." I read it twice. Then I typed back, "I did give it because I loved you. I still love you. But love doesn't mean I don't get to expect basic respect. I wasn't given a seat at your rehearsal dinner. I wasn't included in your wedding party. I was seated at table 11 at my own sister's wedding. If our relationship is purely personal and not financial, then let's have that conversation. But if the financial piece matters, I need it acknowledged." She didn't respond for 2 weeks. When she did, Dominic had apparently been involved in the drafting. The text was longer, calmer, and used the word boundaries 4 times. It said they felt the request was financially aggressive and that they were consulting with his family's attorney. His family's attorney. I forwarded the message to my own attorney, a woman I'd worked with on a contract dispute at my job 2 years earlier, who handles civil matters on the side. She said the letter I'd sent was sound. She said if they wanted to dispute the reclassification, they'd have a hard time doing it without documentation of gift intent, which I had not provided because there had never been any. I also called my mother. I told her everything, not to get her involved, but because she had a right to know what was happening in her own family. She cried on the phone. She said she talked to Fiona. I don't know what they said to each other, but 3 weeks after that, I received a cashier's check for $2,000 in the mail. No note, just the check. I deposited it. People always ask, when they hear a story like this, "Do you regret it?" I've thought about that a lot. Here's what I know. I spent 4 years being the person who showed up. Not because I expected anything in return, not exactly, but because I believed we were the kind of sisters who showed up for each other. That was the implicit agreement. That was the thing I thought we both understood. When she left me standing in that alcove, she didn't just forget to put my name on a seating chart. She told me what I was to her. She answered the question I didn't know I'd been asking. I'm not angry anymore. I was, for a while, the cold, flat kind of angry that doesn't look like anything from the outside. But it metabolized. It turned into something else. Clarity, maybe. Fiona and I talk occasionally now. Birthday texts. The obligatory check-in at Christmas. Her first baby was born 7 months ago, and I sent a gift. A nice one. Not performative. Just something I thought she'd actually use. She sent a thank you note. Her handwriting looked different, more careful, like she'd been practicing. The money is still being repaid. Slowly. Not always on time. I don't chase it. My attorney has the agreement on file. That's enough. I go to work. I manage my accounts. I have dinner with my best friend on Thursday nights. And sometimes we sit on her porch until midnight talking about nothing important. And those nights feel like the truest version of my life. I kept my dignity the night I walked out of that rehearsal dinner. I didn't make a scene. I didn't cry in front of any of them. I picked up my bag and I walked out and I sat with what had happened until I understood it. And then I did what I needed to do. That's not revenge, exactly. It's just what respect costs when the person who owes it to you can't pay in any other currency.